Hello and welcome. We are back today for a very special tutorial because we're going to be taking a look at Simpler. Simpler is a sampler, just like Ableton's sampler is a sampler. It's just that Simpler is a sampler that is a bit more simple. Although it has a really cool feature, especially for all you beat and sample flippers out there, that is just worth its weight in gold. And it also allows you to do a lot of the more experimental sound design techniques. That is really like my favorite thing to do with samplers. Today is also a special tutorial because there's a lot of people that may be watching my videos and just Ableton Live tutorial videos that don't have Ableton Live Suite. In Ableton Live Suite, you get access to all of these MIDI instruments, which we've covered all of these, or at least the ones worth covering. I'm not going to cover external instrument or impulse because no one really uses that. And external instrument is like if you had like a hardware synthesizer, you would like route it in and you would use the external instrument to do that. So yeah, we're going to jump in. So we are going to go over here to Simpler and we are going to drag and drop it, and that's going to give us a MIDI track with a Simpler on it. And we're going to click Record Enable. And right now all we have is this Simpler device. So I'm going to come into here into audio effects, and I'm basically just going to add the audio effects I have on every channel. So I do an EQ8 with 40 hertz. I don't know if yours looks like this, but I put it at 40 hertz just so it doesn't accidentally play the lowest frequencies if it's like a crazy sample or something. I go to dynamics and I drop a compressor. Your compressor may not have these settings. These are just the settings that I put on by default. And then it's always a good idea to have a limiter on here, of course. Because as I've explained in the last ones, if you're doing anything and the audio goes above 0 dB, the limiter knocks it down and thus saves your speakers, saves your ears, by not allowing it to clip. So, okay, Simpler. So there's a lot of different things we can do with Simpler, and we've got 3 modes. We've got classic mode, which it's lit up because that's what we're using right now. And then we have one-shot mode, and we have slice mode. Slice mode is for all those beat and sample flippers out there. You're going to want to use slice mode. But we're going to start with classic. Actually, no, we're going to start with one shot because it's the most basic. One shot basically says if you have a one shot, which can be like a synthesizer sound or percussion, it's just going to play it. It's going to play the full thing. So if you hit a note, it's going to trigger the whole thing. So let's start at one shot, then move on to classic, which gives you more sound design capabilities, and then slice for all you sample flippers out there. So we're in one-shot mode. Now, we need a sample. So where do we go? Well, we'll probably go to categories and go to samples. I'm just going to type in snare. Just get a snare. Because when you play a one-shot, you might have a snare, and that will trigger a snare. And let's face it, if you're making music and it's got drums, you probably might want to have a snare. So if you just kind of click through, you can see the different snares that you have. You can't hear these. Make sure you have this little headphone on down here, this blue one, and then you can hear it. You're not going to hear it on my audio recording, right? You're not going to hear it on this production right now because every time I click this, it's not coming out of any track, so I don't know how to record it. But I like this funky fresh snare because it's got a lot of harmonics. So let's just drag funky fresh snare. So now this is the sample. Now if we play a note, and we got to make sure we're record enabled, and if we play a C3, it will play back at exactly how the sample is. So I'm playing a C3 note, and this is what this sample sounds like. Very loud. I really hope I didn't hurt your guys' ears. I gotta stop saying that because I edit the volume when I'm editing the video. So I'm like, I don't need to say that. It's got a lot going on. Now, when you see these arrows here at the end, that is basically showing where the sample starts and ends. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to activate this so we've got a full screen here. And I am going to not do that. Okay, I want, so this is our whole thing. We've got all of our panels open here. And this is a snare drum. I don't like this little bit right here. I'm actually going to lower some frequency so it doesn't kill our ears. Just because I don't want to hear it that loud yet. This is just a low-pass filter, just removing some of the highs. So I want to move it in because I want it to start a little bit higher. Oh, and I turn off snap. Snapping tries to snap it to 0 crossings, but if you turn it off, it won't do that. So now if I play another note up, you can hear that. And as I play higher up, it gets smaller. Listen. It's like, but if I play higher up, listen to that. So if you're like, dude, I've got a track, I'm making it, I want to have like a pitch snare drum, like, you know what I mean? Something like that. When you play it, if the snare is, you know, when you play up, you want it to be like, you don't want it to be like, so when we play up, that don't sound like this, pitched up. So that's why, folks, you enable warp. Now that's actually something that sampler don't do, which is why you can't sleep on simpler, my friends. Some things you want to do are going to be best achieved with sampler. Other things will be best achieved with simpler, and it's up to you, assuming you have access to sampler and simpler, to make that right decision. Obviously, if all you have is simpler, well then use your sampler, my friend. Use your simpler. Use your simpler sampler, my friend. Okie dokie. So let's move on. So remember let's turn warp off. This is it at regular. This is it like an octave up. Okay, now listen to how it's different when I click warp. Just like before. Actually, you might, okay, I have repitch on down here. Yours won't. Take it off repitch. Go to complex. Now, let's play it on the default. Now let's play an octave up. See how it rings and it's longer? If we turn warp off, that same note, it's a lot shorter. It's not as good. When you have warp on, it will actually warp it so you can play it. You can play it across. So that becomes more prevalent when you, instead of a snare sample, if you have like a synthesizer sample, like a synth tone, like it'll preserve it a little bit more. Now, I don't want this full thing playing, and actually I'm going to turn warp off because there are some limits to it, as we will see later. When you have warp on, you can't use a very important function. So anyways, we will get into that later. So right now we're in one-shot mode. So we see trigger, we see gate. With on trigger, if you hit a button, it will play all the way through. So right now I'm just tapping it. It plays the whole thing. But if I go to gate and I tap it, but if I hold it down, so that's the difference there. Now, typically in one-shot mode, you know, think about a dude who's like playing a beat pad, like a machine, an MPC. You know, he doesn't, when he's playing his drums, he wants to hit them and he wants them to ring. You know what I mean? Well, we could better go to trigger. He wants it to ring, or she wants it to ring all the way out. You know what I mean? Because when you're like playing your samples, you don't want to have to like hold them down to get them to play the whole way. So that's when you would typically use one shot. But if we come over here to classic, and we we have to hold it down. We have to hold the note down to get it to play the whole thing. Because right now, it's when we hold it down, it's playing right at the start. And as long as we hold it down, it's playing the rest of the sample. But once we take our finger off, it'll stop. So what I do, because we love release, if we come down here and make sure we're in amplitude and we give it a release, it's just going to play out anyway. So we're almost getting the benefits of the one-shot mode with classic. So I basically never use one-shot. If you're a certain kind of producer that is relying mostly on one-shot samples, well then by all means, my good friend, use one-shot. But I wanted to cover one-shot first because it's kind of the most basic, and then move on to classic, which basically just gives you more sound design capabilities. And I want as because we're all different, like in what we're trying to achieve. So there's different music producers, and I'm more on the classic thing. I'm just more classic. Okay. So yeah, we got that. And I moved this in because this is like the start of another sample. So I'm going to move it in here. And yeah, we can play it all the way up. But I don't really care to do it that way. And I'm actually going to come into here and I'm going to drop a pitch. And I want to show you that you can get some really cool stuff by playing around here. So what I want to do is I want to have some fun, and I really want to show you some of the awesome sound design capabilities. So if we hit any note, it's going to play out. If we play up, you know, this will transpose it up. But I want to loop it. So if I click loop, listen to what happens. Notice it fade out. That's because we got this really nice release going on here. So what I'm going to do is if I play the start, that'll just say where does the loop start. But I want it to stay all the way back here. So I'm going to turn down this loop percentage. So it'll still start at the beginning here, but it'll loop where this starts. Ready? Check this out. But I don't want it to go all the way over, so I'm going to turn down the length. Now, what I don't like about this is as I'm turning down the length, this part is changing. I don't like that. I can definitely change this blue area, this looped part, but I want more control over it, which is why I normally use sampler for this sort of technique. So if you notice, warp is not engaged. It's not engaged because when it's engaged, you don't have use of this fade parameter, which allows us to do this thing called a crossfade. Now I'm going to lower this pitch a whole lot, and actually I'm going to push shift and down arrow. Then we have... I'm going to bring the loop in. I'm going to lower this frequency. And I'm going to bring this pitch down a lot. Notice how we now have this crazy interesting sound now. I bet you there's a lot of you out there that are like, oh, I knew it was time before Gemini all of a sudden made it about cool sound textures, because, man, that's what we care about on this channel, is having fun with sound design. But I have to do my best to do the best service I can for you guys and to cover these devices. So if I go into more sound design type territories, well, that's what I love. You know what I mean? I love sound design. Cheers to that. We're back, so let's hit a note. Let's give it some more fade. So this is a snare that now sounds like this. Yeah, this is what you can do. This is what you can do. And see these little things? We can come in here to the LFO, turn off retrig. Let's give it a slow rate, and let's apply a little bit to the filter. A little bit to pitch. This says a LFO with 0.24 hertz is going to move the filter and the pitch a little bit. Let's jack up pitch 100%. This probably will sound like crap, but just to illustrate that it is doing something. Yeah, you don't want to do a whole lot with pitch. A little dab will do ya. Filter. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know. So you might want to do a little bit on volume, a little bit on pan. Maybe we can do noise oscillator to give it a little bit of, because I don't want this to have a lot of effect. I just wanted it to have a little bit of movement. So yeah, there's a lot of great sound design possibilities here, my friends. And I'm going to click this sampler up here and go delete. Why would you do such a thing? You will never be able to play that ever again. How come you did that? We loved it so much. By the way, that sample I used, I'm pretty sure you have it too. So you can probably follow along. Let's drag in another sampler on here. It's just great. So come here to slice. Now, probably one of the most basic ways you would use slice is come into samples, and I'm just going to click loop. And let's look at guitar loop. Let's drag it in. So I'll hit some notes. Come into pitch and knock it down, because okay, we want, that's too much. That's way too much. You can lower the sensitivity. I'm going to lower this frequency on the filter. So you can kind of like bounce around like that. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose a drum loop. I'm going to just do drum. I'll do drum loop. Okay, can't say too much. All right. I'm going to get a drum loop. So here's this drum loop. Make sure it's on slice. Ready? And I'm sure you guys know I'm about to do my own little technique here. So basically you can do this and you can choose if you don't want something here, you can double click it to get rid of it. So you do have those options. So you basically can come in and play it at your discretion. This is what slice allows you to do. And let's just do something kind of cool right now, right? So let's go into MIDI effects. And if I play C3, because I was only able to play that because I had to take the pitch down to get to there. And if you zoom in, you can see that a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to random. And you're going to see this 0 lit up over here. If I add up the chance, it's going to randomly choose one up. Now, how many choices? Well, I don't know how many are here up here, but I think it might be like 20. So I'm going to go 22. And I've got it on add, which means if I only push this button C3, it's going to do that, right? But because I like having the first one be a kick drum, because like the kick is normally like the start of the beat, you know? I'm going to keep it here. If I had it all the way up, it would never play it. If I held it at 0, it would only play the kick. And if I add up, but I want something to do it for me. So let's put an appreciator here. And you want to put it before the appreciator, or you want to put it before the random. Ain't that cool? Let's lower the rate. Actually, I'm going to put it on free. And just play with it till it sounds good. And I'm just holding one note. Like, I'm holding one note. And yeah, let's have some more sound design fun. Let's go get a reverb. Hi, reverb. Without. With. I don't know why that just came through me. Let's do a delay. Like, dude, it's so great, man. Like, I'm just holding one button down on my laptop. Aye. Before we get going, I think there's something we must do. Let's go back to samples. Let's just, I don't know what to put. I'm just going to push a loop because I want a loop because I want something that I can like chop and play like that. But I don't want it to be drums. Oh, okay, here we go. Here's what it sounds like. You gotta turn Appreciator and random off. This is what it sounds like. Actually, hold on. Let's turn pitch off too. Okay, so this is what it actually sounds like, guys. I'm just gonna let it play. Now with the pitch, we actually don't even need pitch. And with Appreciator, okay, so let's go to slice, okay? Yeah, I don't want this because this might actually sound pretty good. Let's lower the sensitivity. Let's put the pitch back on. So you can see like so you can do that. But we can turn the Arpeggiator on. And of course, turn on our friend random. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm just holding one button down. Oh, I just got a good idea, and I'm sure you probably know exactly what that is if you've been watching. Let's insert an audio track. Let's come over here and make sure our outputs are open, and we are going to record the input audio from where? Audio from Flute Loop. Oh, I like that. Flute Loop. Do you like Fruit Loops? Put your messages in the comments. Man, I had a bad experience with Fruit Loops, man. I won't ever try that stuff again. YouTube flagged you for talking about Fruit Loops. You did not have the license to talk about the Fruit Loops. YouTube is saying, bad boy, that's a strike. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen someday. Okay, let's record enable, and let's push this, and let's play some of this. Just so you know, the only reason why I'm able to do this is because you guys. I never play with Simpler. Because I knew I had to make a good thing for you, it made me come in here and learn this, and now I'm better. So I'm actually getting better trying to... So anyways, I'll stop talking. I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to use my favorite technique. The OGs of this channel, they know what I'm about to do. OGs as of like a month ago, because I've only been doing them for a month. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to ×2 this bad boy. So right now, here's what we have. Let's push play. Let's push play. But what if we ×2? Make sure your warp is on repitch. Let's click it ×2. And again, you might say, what did that do? Oh, it made it longer. Now listen to what we got. Maybe you like that. Maybe you don't like that. And I hate to just do it again. Delete. So okie dokie. Simpler. So, Simpler is a simple version of Sampler. You've got classic mode, one-shot mode, slice mode. If you're a beat flipper, sample flipper, you're going to spend a lot of time in Slice. Also, if you're someone like me who mostly is like a sound design kind of guy, just wants to make like sounds and stuff, trust me, there's some pretty creative possibilities with Slice mode for us as well. Like what we just did. I didn't know like that could happen. You know, classic, that's when we're going to do more traditional sound design with a sampler. And then one shot is when you're just trying to fire one shots, man. So simpler is really great. It allows you to warp the sample, you know, just like you would do in here, like these warping features. It brings the warping features into simpler, which is something that sampler doesn't do. So just right there, you have abilities that is something that sampler doesn't do. So that would be a reason if you were trying to just take like a sample of like a synth tone, you would just wanted to play it across a keyboard, you would want to do simpler in that situation. And it would give you a better result. If you wanted to, you had like a drum loop, but like you didn't want to play the drum loop. You didn't want to just play the drum loop and have it loop, but you wanted to play the individual elements. You would throw it in a Slice. That would be a thing you wouldn't be able to do with sampler. So in those situations, simpler is the much better device. And if all you have access to is simpler, well, then obviously you're going to want to know more about simpler, which is exactly why I made this tutorial for you guys, for the love. Thank you for your continued support. I'm going to be starting a Patreon soon. Hopefully there's a crypto option. Drop a like in the comment if you like crypto. I could talk about that too, but because I really like crypto and DeFi. If you like crypto or DeFi, drop some love in the comments. So anyways, guys, if you find this useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. We have some other videos coming soon. I'm going to do one on risers, like how to make some riser sounds, you know, which you could also do fallers, you know, risers, fallers, you know, same kind of thing, just interpolated or inversed or whatever. I'm also want to get into some more like making atmospheres, you know what I mean? Also going to do an SDHO. I haven't done an SDHO, which is my podcast, the podcast here on this channel. In a while, because I've been in the zone, man. Like I needed to do collision, tension, electric. It had to be done. And then I thought I covered every single instrument besides simpler. And like there's a whole section of this audience that like doesn't have a lot of these devices and they have simpler. So I knew I had to make it. I made it for you. I did it for love. Drop some love if you felt that, or you felt anything, or if you still feel any more. We're about to do a lot more things. One love. You have yourself a great night or a great day, wherever you are. Let me know where you're from in the comments. Much love. Have a great night.